What's going on, guys? Zanbono here, and I just finished watching the Carolina and Denver game, the kickoff game for the 2016 season for the NFL, and wow, that was a pretty crazy game. That was the way to start off a season for sure. You had the Super Bowl rematch, about as big of a game as you could possibly get, and it sure lived up to the hype. So the final score was 21-20 Denver. They pulled off the win on the last second, on the last play of the game, by a missed field goal from the Panthers. Now let's set this up a little bit, and we'll talk about how the game kind of progressed. Pretty much the player of the game was C.J. Anderson. He had 92 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, 47 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. He pretty much dominated the game all game long. Now, the interesting story to me is that Trevor Siemian made his first ever start in the NFL, threw his first ever pass. He'd never even had a pass attempt in the league before. He'd only played one snap, and it was a knee he took, I think it was last year. So Trevor Siemian in his first ever game in the NFL goes and beats the team that went 15-1 last year, won the NFC Championship, and went to the Super Bowl in the Carolina Panthers. Now, both of these defenses lost one of their key players. Denver lost Malik Jackson, and Carolina lost Josh Norman over the summer, but both defenses looked outstanding. They looked like they didn't really miss a beat from last year. Now, the storyline from the Super Bowl, which was Cam Newton getting beaten up all game long from the edge pressure from Denver, was pretty much the same story once again tonight. Von Miller was able to get to him a couple times. He only had one sack, but he created a lot of pressure and forced him out of the pocket quite a bit. DeMarcus Ware had a sack and a half and was all over him all game long. Now, what's interesting to me is Cam Newton took some hard shots. He took a couple really hard shots to the head where it looked like he might have been dazed a couple times. He took a really hard shot to the back that had him laying down on the sideline during the middle of the game, and he took another shot to the knees on a play where he also took a shot to the head late in the fourth quarter, and they called roughing the passer on the play. But there was also another penalty on the play for the offense that ended up canceling it out. But basically, the way the last drive happened was Carolina was up. I'm sorry, let's backtrack. Carolina was up 17-7 at halftime. They pretty much dominated the entire first half. Cam Newton was getting yards on the ground. He had a rushing touchdown. He threw the first touchdown of the season, went to Kelvin Benjamin. He was passing all over Denver, and it was just a tale of two halves. Once you got to halftime, like I said, Denver was down 17-7. They came back and ended up winning 21-20 and pretty much just dominated the second half. After Cam Newton took that shot to the back, he really just didn't look the same for the rest of the game, and it was pretty obvious that that they were getting to him on defense and that those shots were starting to add up. And that's definitely not something you want to see from the MVP of the league, especially in week one. You don't want to see a guy taking those many shots this early on in the season because you don't know what kind of effect it could have on him later on down the road. Now, the good news for Cam Newton and for the Panthers is they play in the NFC South, probably the weakest division in the NFL in terms of pass rush and getting sacks. So hopefully they should be able to keep a clean pocket around him all season long, and especially in those division games, and be able to keep him healthy because, man, he took some hard shots tonight. On that final drive, Cam Newton was leading the team down the field as they were down 21-20, and they were trying to set up for a game-winning field goal or touchdown, and they were down. It was 4th and 21, and they threw an incomplete pass, but Chris Harris was called for hands to the face and gave them an automatic first down, which was potentially going to be the play of the game had Denver lost, but they got lucky, and Cam Newton completed a pass to Ted Ginn that went out of bounds with 9 seconds left to set them up for a 50-yard field goal. They hit the first try, but Denver had called a timeout just before Gano went up for the field goal attempt and made it. And on the second attempt, the snap went a little high, and Gano hit the ball wide left. Denver took the knee, and they ended the game, winning 21-20. Siemian taking home his first W, and the 15-1 Panthers from last year going 0-1 to start the season on the road against Denver. But at the end of the day, it was a pretty incredible game, and it was really interesting to watch and to know that after 7 months of the season, or 7 months of no football, teams both losing key players, the storyline was still pretty similar, which was this Denver defense and that edge rush getting to Cam Newton all game long and forcing him to make mistakes. Now, Trevor Siemian, a lot of people want to know how he played. I thought he played okay. He looked like a guy who was playing in his first ever game. Now, he had some moments where you would definitely be excited if you were a Denver fan that he looks like he could definitely have some potential and could be a quarterback that can lead a team. If C.J. Anderson plays like he did today and this defense plays like he did, he's definitely a step up from what Peyton Manning was last year, most of the time. And he could definitely get this team far in the playoffs if he continues to play the way he did tonight. Now, there was one play in mind where he had a couple plays where, one, he threw the ball really high on Demaryius Thomas, which led to him taking a big shot to the back. Demaryius went down, looked like he was hurt for a little bit, but he ended up finishing the game and being okay. But he had a couple throws that were just shaky on his accuracy, especially one pass where he ended up throwing an interception where he was throwing off his back foot, trying to throw a fade, and the receiver was wide open, probably would have scored a touchdown, but he underthrew him a little bit and he was picked off. Thomas Davis Sr., the linebacker for the Panthers, had an incredible game. He had a forced fumble in the first series of the game on C.J. Anderson, and he also had a pick on a tipped screen pass. So he played phenomenal. I know he also had another tackle for loss on C.J. Anderson. I believe it was another screen pass that he sniffed out, but he played really well for the Carolina Panthers. Luke Kuechly was dominating, at least there in the first half, where it seemed like nobody could quite get to him and lay a block. So the big-name players pretty much played like the big-name players would, as you would expected. But that Denver defense, once again, stopped Carolina. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please hit like and feel free to subscribe. There'll be more videos. I'm going to have a video coming out tomorrow of Week 4 of my fantasy franchise. So have a good night, guys. Hope you enjoyed the game. Way to kick off the season.